for universal health care.
Well, it looks like... And with me on the program now, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, Josh Frydenberg, and Labor frontbencher Ed Husic. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning, Kieran.
So, Josh, a fundamentally honest budget is the way the Prime Minister describes it, with a number of broken promises. How can that be justified?
Well, our fundamental commitment to the Australian people was to bring the budget back into balance, and that's what we have done with the measures we announced last night. The budget will do two things. Firstly, it's going to help pay back Labor's debt. Nearly $300 billion of debt will be paid back over the next 10 years, and the budget deficit will reduce from $49.9 billion to just $2.8 billion in 2017-2018. The second thing it will do will put in place a platform of policies and processes that can grow the Australian economy. The greatest investment in infrastructure, $50 billion, boosting participation by creating incentives for employers to take on older people, the paid parental leave scheme to keep more women in the workforce, and of course helping young people get back into work if they're coming off the disability support scheme or other welfare payments. And then, thirdly, what we're doing is a massive investment in education and innovation with the Medical Research Future Fund, together with the deregulation of the university sector, with also support for apprentices and people in TAFEs or getting pre-bachelor degrees. That has never occurred before at the Commonwealth level. Right. So I think this is a fundamentally strong and honest budget, but also it's in the long-term interests of the Australian people.
Ed Husic.
Well, when they say it's fundamentally honest, it's like when they used to call people Honest John. It was always meant tongue-in-cheek, because it basically betrayed the fact that there were a whole stack of lies that were carried out in the past under Liberal administrations, and this is in terms of this budget, the foundation stone of it is deceit, and it's cemented together with broken promises. We were told no new taxes, no increases in taxes. We were told no cuts to health or education. We were told no changes to pension all before the election, and now we have a budget that's ushered in more taxes, more cuts, more broken promises, and it's particularly going to affect the people that live in Western Sydney, the ones that I represent.
Let's look at some of the specifics here. I spoke to Lynn Hatfield-Dodds from Uniting Care and a couple of others from the welfare sector. One of their concerns, Josh Frydenberg, is the freeze essentially on the dole for young people. There's a 6-month window before they can receive unemployment benefits. What do they do in the meantime if you don't have a supportive family, if they are from underprivileged areas?
Well, a couple of points here. Firstly, we believe the jobs are out there, and so we believe we need to get people out into the workforce looking for those jobs rather than just taking the approach of getting onto welfare. The second thing is, during the period of the Rudd and Gillard governments, we saw youth unemployment more than double, so they have no answers. So what we have is we believe is a solution which can help get young people who have the capacity to work. Of course, if they don't have the capacity to work, there are other means of government support. But what we are looking to do is with people with the capacity to work to get out there and get a job.
Is there support in that 6-month period? Because by the sounds of it, there is no support in that 6-month period. It's a long time.
Well, we believe in that period of time, somebody who is willing and, of course, able to work will find a job.
I don't see how you can say the jobs are there, because we've hit over 6% unemployment. We didn't even reach that during the GFC. So unemployment's been going up and a job lost every 3 minutes under this government, and they're at the same time expecting that people will easily find work in a climate where unemployment's going to hit 6.25%, and some concerned it may even go worse than that, and all the structures being cut underneath. I mean, the hit to schools and hospitals that we estimated about $80 billion. The fact that people will be charged when they go to see a doctor. The fact that university fees will, for a lot of people, they'll be paying more for university to try and get an education. I was the first in my family to get into university. I went to UWS, and most of the students that go there, 50% of them are the first time members of a family going to university, all affected by this budget. And so when we're told that the jobs are out there and they're evaporating before our eyes and there's no support, I mean, this is just a recipe for disaster.
In terms of the universities, though, in terms of the university payments and the fees, deregulation of the fees, students won't be asked to pay a cent up front. This is all paid once they're earning $50,000 a year. People who go to university do have a higher earning capacity. Isn't it fair that that they do make this a more share some of the burden in making it more sustainable into the future?
Well, what happens, you have to look at the variety of graduate salaries once people actually finish their studies. And it's not always the case that they're going into high-paid jobs, and you're loading them up with not only the tax that they have to pay, but an ever-increasing share of taxation as a result of university fees as well. And the signal should be to get more people studying, not dissuading them from it. I mean, they're big into price signals now. They're big into means testing. The Coalition were never like this and never suggested this leading into the election. And people are paying the price for their broken
The GP
promises.
co-payment. This is
Terrible.
this is something that wasn't flagged before the election. The excise, the fuel excise, was not flagged. In fact, the Prime Minister said repeatedly there would be cuts to taxes with no increase in taxes. How do you balance that up with the fact that now we've got a budget with blatant increases in taxes?
Well, firstly, we had a Commission of Audit, and as you know, one of the recommendations of the Commission of Audit was this co-payment for Medicare, which is substantially higher than the one we announced last night. When it comes to means
It's a lot of
testing
money
co-payments,
for people, pensioners
Well-
and so on, who don't have a lot of disposable
Well,
cash.
as-
and they've got to go to the doctors more than you and I.
But as the Treasurer pointed out, this money is going to be invested in this $20 billion medical research future fund. What concerns me, Kieran, is we're sitting here with my friend and colleague Ed Husey, and he's turning his back on the reforms of some of his predecessors like Hawke and Keating. They introduced co-payments for PBS medicines. They introduced an indexation on fuel excise. They introduced, Bob Hawke introduced a efficiency dividend for the ABC. His colleague, the Shadow Assistant Treasurer, Andrew Lee, supports the deregulation of uni fees. I mean, this is just rank hypocrisy by Labor to come out here today and start saying they're opposing these measures.
Let's hear from Ed then
Well,
on that criticism that you're not
turning your
not
back on Hawke
matching the
and
legacy
Keating.
of the
Coalition-
Hawke Keating.
Hang on a second.
Period.
The Coalition, well, let's talk about the co-payment. When Bob Hawke introduced it, there was a caucus revolt. But for us, it's
Not on the
fundamental.
PBS.
It's fundamental. Hang on a second. You said co-payment, so let's deal with that.
Co-payment
The
PBS.
co-payment got ditched because people feel so strongly about the universality of healthcare that they did not want to see that co-payment in place. The key thing that needs to be borne in mind here is when you flick through their Real Solutions booklet that Tony Abbott was carrying everywhere, they didn't have any of this. They built their whole premise for government on the basis that they would be a government with integrity and trust, that you could bank on what they said. And they have torn all that up in this hackathon of a budget to basically undermine the type of things that people rely upon in their day-to-day lives. And on the health side, this is the most offensive thing. The $7 co-payment, combined with the hit on medicines that go up, combined with the fact that doctors will be encouraged to go off bulk billing through some of the changes to doctors' pay, and the $15 billion cut to hospital spending. And this will all combine to make life harder for people, particularly in Western Sydney.
Well, Kieran, can I just say, firstly,
Just
Bob
finally,
Hawke did
a
introduce...
quick wrap up from both of you,
Yeah.
and then we've got to go to a break.
Bob Hawke did introduce a co-payment on PBS. There was a revolt over the Medicare co-payment, but he did introduce a co-payment on PBS. The point why we're sitting here and discussing this reality check, which was last night's budget, was because Labor bequeathed us a fiscal nightmare. They didn't make any of the structural reforms that Australia needs. We are cleaning up their mess. We're the ones who are getting to be unpopular because they promised that they have a surplus 600 times and never delivered one.
And the other thing is, we actually introduced 180 billion of saves. We, for example, tried to means test the private health insurance rebate, which was opposed by the other side that said we were attacking aspiration. They're putting in place on top of all these cuts. Like most people that will feel these cuts are on low and middle income. People on high incomes really won't feel much other than the actual increase in some of their taxes, which will be offset by a $50,000 payment under paid parental leave schemes being introduced by this government. There is no sense of fairness. We're not really carrying the load, and it's just going to hurt people that really can't afford to bear the cost.
Gentlemen, thanks for coming out this morning.
Great
Appreciate
to be
it.
with you, Kieran. Good to see you.
Good on you.
See you soon, Ed. Josh Frydenberg. Let's go now to, we'll change our focus and look at the Pink Bats inquiry, which is underway in Brisbane. For the latest on that, we join live this